Hello, Stephanie Joy with All Things Social Security. We had a Q&A with a short little clip discussion on a particular topic. So I'm going to attach it for you here. It might be something that you're interested in if you clicked on this header. And following that, we're going to go through it a little bit more. So just wanted to give you the heads up. This is where it started from, and then we'll have the bigger discussion right after. All right, chat with you later. Bye-bye. Should I request all my medical records? Yeah, why not? And I suggest you do it in the high-tech HIPAA format, MD. That way they can't charge you per page and charge you, if they have 200 pages, they can't charge you $200, 300 or whatever. Every state potentially has its own rules on that, but the federal government, if it's more generous to you, it preempts. So high-tech HIPAA says, I have videos on this, and I would strongly recommend it to any pro se who is getting their own records. It basically says if a patient in his HIPAA form is requesting his records to be sent to him, not to an attorney, not to grandma, not to the chiropractor, not to another doctor, to himself, and says, and I want them in high-tech fashion, fax, email. Technically, you could say CD, but then they're going to charge you for the CD. And do you even have a CD reader? So with the high-tech HIPAA that I share to anybody who wants it, and particularly my clients, so that the bill is generally going to be under $10 to get your records this way, even if it's 500 pages, because they can't charge you per page, and they can't charge search time to go find your file and dig it out. They can only charge for the amount of minutes the worker takes to send them to you. And since everybody has a portal and electronic records, they are subject to the fact that they can send it to you by a download link, they can fax them to you, or they can email them to you. And they have to do it the way you want them to do it, unless it would be unreasonably difficult for them, which it's not for any medical office that has computers. So save yourself some money. This didn't exist the whole time I practiced. It's been several years now, though. It wasn't until a few years ago that we all kind of wrapped our minds around it. One of the major medical records companies that does the job of storing medical records and fulfilling medical records requests on behalf of various medical providers, they sued, saying, and basically it was to make it the way I just said it, that if they ask that it go high tech to a lawyer, we can still charge them. And technically, the way Congress, and it's all of its ignorance, wrote the law was that it didn't protect against that. The company's name was Siox, S-I-O-X. And I would take that as a win for them in one sense, but so what? So then the patient just has the request in his name only. I mean, it's not a big deal if they're going to be trying to make their living that way. I mean, they get paid by the medical provider to house their records. So why are they even charging patients for their digital copy that they press a couple buttons and send it to you? So that's why they can't charge more than, it's going to generally be not, I've never seen, nowadays I half the time don't even see them get charged, but sometimes they'll get a charge for like $6.89. It's always under $10, if at all. And back in the day when this didn't exist, my clients had to buck up the money for medical records, because medical records could be hundreds and hundreds of dollars. The maximum we could make in a case was only hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So obviously we can't pay for it, else we wouldn't be in business. So people had to pay for their own expenses. Now, I know a lot of my colleagues still don't do this, and I have videos out on it, but high-tech HIPAA is the way to go. It's the way to go. If any lawyers are not using it for their clients, it's a travesty, because they're probably taking out the cost of the records from your settlement or anything else in whatever field it is in. And why should you have to be paying that when it could have just been done a high-tech HIPAA way? Just saying. Hey, so if the subject matter of the video you just listened to is of interest and you want more on it, stay tuned. Here's another one about the same topic, but a little bit different. Bye now. Hello. Okay, so today I'm just talking quickly about a patient's right to access his or her records. In other words, be sent a copy at a reasonable cost. More and more, we are seeing patients who cannot get their records because their provider or a third-party vendor who is doing their copying for them is charging them $50, $100, $200, $300, whatever floats the boat at the moment. So I need everybody to know, you might have a state rule that is very, very patient-friendly. Some states are, some states are not. I can't go into each and every different state. I only do that with my clients when it comes up in a particular state. But I use the high-tech HIPAA at any rate, which is, let me explain. There's a federal rule that will dictate what your fee can be if you ask for your records in a particular manner. And all states have to abide by it unless their scheme in their laws are more patient-friendly than the federal. So what is this federal law that everybody can use? It is a piece of HIPAA. You're all familiar with HIPAA. Within HIPAA, you're used to it usually with privacy. Oh, you can't tell that, it's violating HIPAA. And people take that violation very seriously. I mean, the providers do, big time. I mean, as we know, people have died in hospitals because their loved ones weren't allowed to know they were in there, right? So, and that's horrible. But there's other sections of HIPAA, including right to access. That's a patient's right to access his or her records. And within that HIPAA access is something called high tech. This is a carve-out from the regular right of access. This is a particular form of access that provides you with a very protective fee. So basically what it says is, and this is the way it currently is, although it'll fluctuate because there are lawsuits going on by some of the profit gainers from records who want this to be, want the records prices to increase and therefore restrict how much a patient can use this. But currently, as my understanding is, and as we've been using it, fortunately, if a patient sends in a request for his or her records to be sent to the patient, not to anybody else, not to a friend, a parent, a cousin, a lawyer, just the patient to the patient. This is patient's form. And he asked for it to be sent electronically. This would be fax, email, which could be a PDF attached to an email, or it could be a download link because the provider keeps it up in some secure place, or by CD, where it would be mailed to their home. Or yeah, if that's where they are, that's what they want to send. If that's the case, then these restrictions apply. They either have to charge no more than $6.50, which I think that fee will fluctuate at some point, inflation and all. So I'd say give it up to 10, or actual costs, or of that particular request. Or the third thing is an average of requests in general for particular sizes, or however they figure that out. But if they don't do the flat fee of $6.50, then they have to do one of the other two. And if the patient doesn't like the result, the patient can say, no, itemize that for me. Show me how you came to $47 for someone to press a button and email me a PDF. Because guaranteed the person sending the PDF does not make $47 an hour, and it doesn't take an hour to do. It takes maybe 3 minutes. They are not allowed to include in the time labor of the person copying and sending. They're not allowed to include, as my understanding and other colleagues of mine's understanding of the law is, search time to go find your records. And that makes sense, because if you made search time be included, that would be a great incentive for providers. And when I say providers, I mean it could be their third-party vendors, because there's wonderful providers out there. So oftentimes it's the vendor. What a great incentive to have a very disorganized, slow process for the search. And they can't charge you by the page because they're no longer printing, inking, mailing pages. If they mail you the CD, they can charge you the mailing cost and the cost of the CD. They're not supposed to mark that up, I presume, because it's supposed to be actual cost, right? Now, for the patients that I've seen, and when they've patients that I don't represent, I help with this. It's just a kind of a pro bono thing I do. But they will often, if they use the form that I think works best, but they don't have to, they can spiel it any way they want. Email or fax, but not CD. The reason why the forms that we have to share for people don't include a CD is because oftentimes the CDs don't open. Oftentimes they require a password that you have not been given. And then you have to call that office and hope that they have the password. And I've seen this go sideways too many times. But again, most patients don't have CD readers. I mean, computers don't even come with them anymore half the time. Everything's downloadable. And CDs often malfunction as well. So you can get a CD, and even if it doesn't malfunction, you can open it. You can also have not all the records are there. So you went through all this hullabaloo. It took weeks to get it when it could have been same day, press the button. I have them in a PDF or a link to go download them from a secure portal. Usually if it's going to be a download, not always, but usually they'll want you to have a password. They might send you a separate email saying your password is your birth date and the first 4 letters of your last name, or it'll be something like that. But in any event, you have options. Do not forego getting your medical records because some person is charging you $200. If you're using a regular HIPAA, standard old-fashioned release, yeah, they can charge you according to those laws. But if it's a high-tech request, and I would label right on top of your request, high-tech. The form we have actually cites to the Code of Federal Regulations, which, by the way, is at 164.524 and all within that, as well as 42 USC, the United States Code, at 17935. So those are 2 places you can look. Our forms have those notated in a footnote on the bottom, and we refer to them so that the provider, when they get that, or the person in charge of making the copies, the digital copy, the electronic copy, is on notice that this is where we're getting this from. And so don't charge me more than, say, it's $650 as of now, unless they itemize. And if they itemize, they better be careful not to be charging by the page, including a search fee or anything else. It's just a little bit of time. It takes the 5 minutes it takes the worker to do the job. So you don't want to be seeing a $25 fee for 5 minutes of time. That's unrealistic. So anyway, I hope this helps you. If anyone needs any blank forms or, printouts of some of these sections, I can probably dig them up for you. I have what some people have used and how they use them to respond when a provider tries to jack them after they get the request. So you're more than welcome to them. Okay. Thank you for paying attention. I can't stand seeing patients ripped off or obstructed in terms of trying to deal with their life's needs, which include their medical records. So I hope this helps. Bye-bye now.